Hello everyone, Golf Coach Marv here. Today I'm with Dave Donovan, club fitter here at ClubCraft as well. Today we have a pretty interesting show for you guys. Titleist has released their new T-Series irons.
T-Series irons, looking forward to showing it to you guys.
Yep, updated a little bit different than the last model. And we'll be comparing them a little bit later today after we kind of talk about some key points about the new ones.
Sure.
Again, Titleist is known for being really good quality. Whoever plays Titleist is loyal to Titleist.
That's what we've seemed to find here at the studio, right?
So we've always seen kind of in terms of differences, they tend to kind of keep it the same. Like very little differences between models.
Generally more traditional lofts for the better players. They're not really going to juice the lofts as some of the other companies do until you get down to the more game improvement irons, which we'll talk to you guys about as well.
Exactly. So kind of starting off here, again, they have the better players clubs, I guess you could say, the CBs and the MBs, but then the T-Series has replaced like the AP line from
correct.
AP1,
AP2, AP3.
Exactly, and when they switched over to the T-Series, they changed it up. So AP1 in the past is now what the T300 is.
Correct.
Right, the AP2 is what the T100 is,
yep.
And the AP3 is what the T200
T200 is currently correct.
So that was a little bit confusing for most people when they
Myself
did that.
included.
Exactly. But this time around, they've kept it the same.
Sure.
They've just kind of updated the models a little bit. So starting with the T100, we got two models. Today we have the T100 model only to kind of test out.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I kind of like the look of is the finish. In the past, it's been more of a chrome finish on this head. I'll show you both sides. Sorry, Marv, go the other way for me. So more of a chrome look. Here on the current model, if you will, since these are not available yet, it's more of a brushed satin or a brushed steel, which I particularly like the look of, especially here in South Florida with all the glare and the sun in our eyes. So I truly appreciate that look that Titleist has done in the new model.
Also, when it comes to the sole, I know they've gotten together with some of the Vokey guys in terms of improving the bottom part of the golf club. Towards the heel is a little bit narrower, up towards the toe is a little bit wider, and that really, we're hitting out of mats today, but when you're out on the turf in interaction, it kind of lets the club glide a little bit more like a wedge.
Right.
So it doesn't dig in as much.
Sure.
And for a club that's small like this one, it almost makes it play a lot better than a true blade, because if you don't hit a blade the way you should, forget about it. So this club also is almost aimed by Titleist for the player who's stuck playing blades, like myself.
Yeah, you've always loved the blade look.
And it's really hard to kind of go into something a little bit more forgiving because the look just gets a little bit thicker. But the look of this club, very thin top line. Love the top line. But the bottom point just plays differently.
Yeah, to your point, as you talked about the sole design, a little bit narrow at the heel, getting a little wider towards the toe. Yep. These are brand new products, guys, so everything we're just doing research, looking, trying to come up with our own conclusions. But again, from what I've read, that's more designed for better turf interaction. Exactly. Through impact, especially on some tighter lies. We get all sorts of lies here in Florida, so that's basically designed behind that.
Perfect, and when it comes to loft, again, very traditional in loft. 34 degrees on the 7 iron.
On the 7 iron in that model.
And again, very similar to a blade. A blade is probably going to be 35 to 34 depending on what company.
Sure.
But Titleist is 35 on their blade.
On their MB.
On their MB. So this one's just 1 degree less loft. But again, because of the design, much easier to get up in the air. If you do miss hit it a little bit, a lot more forgiving. So again, this is more towards the single digit handicap golfer. Anybody who breaks 80 consistently. Anything above that, they might be interested in perhaps the T200, which is the next one following.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
In terms of differences, right? The biggest difference here is obviously the back of it. One of them, I wouldn't say it was a true cavity, right? But it does have a little bit of a indenture there, whereas the new one is kind of capped, almost like we look at models like the P790 TaylorMade.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think this middle of the road line here for Titleist, not knowing much about it yet, is we literally just got our demos in and we haven't done much testing yet, which is why we don't have the T100S. However, there is another T100S, which is similar design from what I've read, slightly stronger loft with a little different sole design. And sorry to take you back to out of the T200 to the 100S. However, we did want to talk about that just a touch before getting into the T200. Not to backtrack, however, T200 would be more designed off of a Everything I've read, more of a hollow cavity design.
Yep.
So maybe a little more ball speeds, a little more trampoline effect out of the T200. Within the new Titleist T1, the T-Series irons, my personal opinion is that would be the biggest change that I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can see kind of the differences between T100 and T200 in terms of the bottom part of it. You can see how it's a little bit wider down the bottom. For a player who struggles getting the ball up in the air.
Sure, moving the CG a little deeper.
Yep.
So with a little stronger loft, as we talked about prior, the T200 is 20, was it 31?
32 on the 7.
32 on the T100S.
T100S, 31 on the T200.
T200, correct.
Yeah, so 3 degrees less loft than the T100, but again, because of the design, even though it's 3 degrees less loft, you can still launch it up in the air.
To your point, when you were saying about the center of gravity, a little wider sole, that the manufacturers can move that CG further back, CG meaning center of gravity, to help the player launch the ball a little bit higher and get those land angles more appropriate for a little stronger lofted golf club with plenty of forgiveness in there.
Exactly. And again, kind of, low handicap, mid handicap level, moving into the 300. Again, different ballpark. Loft is going to go down to what?
29 degrees, I believe, on the 7 iron.
29 degrees. So we're talking about 5 degrees less. So, and again, that could be a negative or a positive depending on the player.
Sure.
But if a player does need something that pops off a little bit more, then that club is, again, the one you want to consider. You stick a good shaft in there that can help them launch it.
Absolutely.
Then we're golden.
And just maybe quickly just show them the sole on the T300 so they can see the difference of the little more offset on this golf club.
Yeah, so looking at it, I guess this angle here, we can kind of tell. So the heel is a little bit more forward, closer to the target on the 300, whereas this 200, it's a little bit further back. So, and again, the higher handicap of the person that comes in sometimes with an open face
or a little cut,
or a little
swing,
cut, exactly.
Right.
That offset look is going to help them square the face up a little bit.
Absolutely will.
You know,
or by design, that's what it's designed
exactly, for. Exactly. And it's not so much a band-aid, but it is something that does help.
Sure.
So that's that. If we compare this 300 though, however, to last year's model in terms of the look, very similar in look there. In terms of the
Polymer insert?
Yeah, there you go. So both of them had the same thing, right? A little bit different design there. However, looking down on this thing, and I'm not sure if you can kind of agree with me, it looks it's a little bit thicker top line, perhaps in the new one.
You know, it does look that way, Marvin. What I've read again with the T300, the majority of the club is a satin look to it, or a chrome, excuse me. But I think what they did on this year's T300 is they put that brushed steel look on top, which may look a little bit thicker or wider to you folks at home when you look down on it. But again, I think it's probably designed for less glare and just give the club a little bit more sex appeal, if you will, just looking a little bit cleaner from the top line.
Absolutely. And again, all this stuff, every year something new comes out and they'll tell you, hey, it's this much better, this was new things on it. At the end of the day, we love testing things out. Now that we've kind of gotten to know a little bit about the golf clubs, we do want to hit them a little bit. So we want to compare the new model to the old model. So we're going to go over and hit a few shots.